I actually am doing some research about diet and nutrition when it comes to ARFID. Um, Unfortunately, I am literally neurodivergent as 48, and I now am realizing I've always had it. So I actually did a video recently about it. So what is ARFID? So basically, it is your brain and your nervous system not understanding um, where like certain smells and tastes, basically being overwhelmed that you don't want to eat or it makes you vomit to your stomach. Hey, sweetie. Hi. Thanks for joining. So, I honestly, there are tricks as a mom. Sorry, I live in a city, so, and I'm actually filming this outside. So, there are tricks that I actually had to do, and I see the like certain parents actually promote and talk about like certain vitamins that they sprinkle into the food and stuff like that. I don't know if you guys do those kind of things, and I don't know if you actually had done like maybe labs before you started, and then like trialed it with your child to see if they were getting the nutrition. I'm just curious because I'm gonna be honest. Um, I literally am myself suffering right now from like severe anemia just because I'm not getting the right nutrition in my body. So, ARFID, um, it comes in a weird situation where, thank God, it's never happened to me when I'm in public with people like at a restaurant. It's always in a like weird situation. Either if I'm too stressed out, ironically. Um, but most of it, what affects me is when I literally am trying to eat and like it could be something I enjoy, and all of a sudden, like my brain is telling my mouth, like, ew, that texture just feels cold. Like it's old. I don't want it anymore. And literally, that's exactly what I do. So, like a three-quarter of a sandwich, I can barely eat. And then I have to wait until my brain actually can think that I can eat it again or feel hungry. So that's something that neurodivergent brains have to deal with when it comes to certain things like thirst and food. Um, those kind of like little, not hunger pains, but actually like instincts, which are literally inside of us. Like you have your instinct when you're hungry, and I mean, some people actually call it like to be angry after a while, hangry, if you don't eat enough. But I can honestly tell you, um, my youngest, one of the things she did, which I didn't know, because she probably as well is suffering just like me and with ARFID, is she wouldn't eat anything but chicken nuggets. I mean, like that was her only meal for like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I kid you not, for about like 5 years, 5 or 6 years, we couldn't get her to eat anything else. And it got to the point that it was like the sugar from the ketchup and all that poor nutrition, her teeth started rotting because obviously she's not getting the calcium and the things that she needs. So that was a challenge. And I talked about, hey, Robert, how are you? It's over there, babe. It's by you. I don't have it. So one of the things that are I actually noticed with her is her temperature. Because her teeth were not getting the nutrition, I'm guessing she had actually to drink from a straw because every time she was actually trying to drink and it was cold, she would vomit. Um, there was also certain times when we were dealing with learning how to eat solids. And I know that parents still to this very day do some type of like weaning off or furthering the child to get them to do like things independently. Okay. Hey, how are you? So one of the things that I literally started first to do, took the sugar out of the house. I mean, like we didn't have sugar. If it was sugar, it was like apple juice or something fresh. But I substitute a lot of the sugar, and I ended up actually having to kind of not have a dietary restriction, but um, you know, so there's different taste buds in your tongue, and ironically, the last taste bud that you actually end up having when you're like demented and like literally can't even function and can't feed yourself anymore. The trick is the last taste bud that we have is sugar. So technically, our tip of our tongue is where the sugar palate is. And I kid you not, that's one of the reasons why it's there. It's easy to introduce a food that way, right? So if you literally touch their lips and give them some applesauce, they're gonna do this because they're gonna feel it. So taking it step by step, and this is what I'm talking about, like starting with toddlers, the carrot baby food or the puree baby food is what we actually, as a family, for all three of my kids, I made them puree everything, all natural, no sugar at all. So, like I said, apple sauce were the only things I added on because of course, the sugar. So, like, good example, my kids didn't actually ever experience chocolate, and I used to make chocolate like brownies and cookies at the house. But what they didn't know is I I was actually ended up I was actually ending with I was actually ending with having to create like ways for them to have vegetables in their diet. So um, a lot of people don't know chocolate hides flavor. So again, um, that's a good key um, ingredient that I actually was able to put like um, broccoli. I would grind it into a juice, like carrots, beets, and I would put it in their brownies. Instead of using the water and the milk, that's what I would use. And not that I'm vegan at the time, but that's the only way I was able to actually get them to transition into, hey, this is this type of flavor, or from the mild and very like um, bland kind of flavors to gradually understand like and even texture. I mean, like giving a kid a sushi or eating like raw fish, that all it is very different for every child. So, yeah, in the beginning, it was really hard, and I honestly can tell you, um, when you're actually dealing with kids with ARFID, uh, mealtime, it's like a hit or miss and break. Because either you as a parent are going to be crying because the kid is not eating, or like they're constantly fighting with you, and or they only want to eat a certain food for the rest of their lives. Like, how do you introduce the other ones, right? So it really starts with your patients and also how you're going to like introduce food, because unfortunately there's a behavior that will attest or can come of how you as a family treat food. Like, example, people who actually are like, I know Greek families have a tendency to actually get together and have like big parties, and as a family and culturally they'll eat a lot of food. but it's Greek food, right? It's Mediterranean. It's not very heavy on carbs that much. So it's a very different type of diet, right? Now, not saying that your kids need to be in a certain diet, but they need to have some nutrients that were, the basics, you know, and that gut bio concept, and all these vitamins that are on here that people are selling, honestly, there's no research. Um, it hurts me when someone's actually trying to sell or say that, hey, this is going to help your autistic kid or help focus with the ADHD. Um, I'm an adult with ADHD, and if it wasn't for the meds, I wouldn't be able to get through the day anymore. So if your kid can need or benefit from the medicine, um, I say so be it, because it's to each his own, right? I have never, until recent, did I ever actually even attempt to go on medication. I was diagnosed at 32, and so it never really affected me until now, and now I'm 48. But so a stimulant is different for us. So technically, a stimulant is supposed to give everybody a high, but for us, it normally will calm us down. It will actually help us to focus. That's why we need it. But some things, ADHD people who actually have an addiction is the biggest one of mine, which is here, social media, is literally serotonin. I'm always looking for serotonin. It's we crave it all day long. Um, it's it's caused by behavior. So back to the food thing. So when you have a family that introduces food and uses it as a weapon, and why I say this as a weapon is because I love it when I have a parent who can't get their autistic kid into a car to go and take them to like their doctor's appointment. So what does a parent do? Oh, I have a Kit Kat. I'm going to bribe you with a Kit Kat to get you in the car. Okay. You're going to introduce a reward just for something that they like have to do with food. It's probably the worst thing you could possibly do, because they are going to associate, oh, I'm going to get this type of reward if I just do like the bare minimum. And so that's why ABA has changed a great deal from like back in the day until now. And because food was used as reinforcers back then, I mean, I don't know how many little gummies that I had to cut into like 6 pieces just to bribe kids, because that's what in back then they were using. Um, and I hate that. So I felt like it didn't really fix the problem, because you always had to give them a better reward. So if you give them a Kit Kat today, what are you going to give them the like 4 years from now when they're like, yeah, that's not enough? So point is that always think whatever reinforcement you're going to use, please don't let it be food. But if it's going to be something of value, you have to always remember that like they don't understand the concept of money. You're teaching them those concepts. So it's really important to have an open discussion about with your child, if they are able to speak, or are high functioning, to actually like ask them like, hey, do you like this flavor, or do you like this type of food, and introducing to different cultures of foods. um, I kid you not, I had given my son puree. He was on a puree diet. Now he is severe, okay? And he had many multiple surgeries like pyloric stenosis, and he's had his adenoids removed, his tonsils removed, his soft palate removed. We had his tubes put in twice because he was constantly getting ear infection. All that is going to contribute on how he swallowed, how he was able to chew, all of it. So thank God with time, We did get, a speech pathologist that was trained on sensory and dietary, like ARFID. And so she did a phenomenal job in trying to get like just him to eat solids, because we didn't eat solids until my son was pretty much 5 years old by the time he was actually eating solids. And I'm talking about like from puree to a consistency now that I'm actually like giving him a piece of chicken. So yeah, he was 5. So imagine, all the way from the time he was born till most kids start eating like snacks and stuff, like little finger foods at 3. He wasn't able to digest it. He wasn't able to eat it. So at the time, we didn't make with do, but all that time, the flavors that I would make the puree started to change in seasoning, because I thought to myself, okay, if I don't put any seasoning, this kid is not going to get used to eating like chicken if it's made from barbecue, or chicken if it's made like with Parmesan and cheese and it's like Italian. If I didn't actually start introducing those flavors to him, and actually, he would have been gagging all this time, because he would have never been used to it. So slowly, I actually gradually, um, you know, created different flavors uh, for him to have. So it went from eating puree foods and started small little bites of just like a 3-year-old when they eat finger foods, or the foods that actually go in their mouths and dissolve. I just wanted to make sure that my son wasn't choking, you know? And I honestly, I kid you not, we ended up, he started feeding himself to almost at the same time, like independently. Okay, so, here's a legally blind kid all this time. People are always just telling me that he can't see. So, but I would still do hand over hand. And by then, at 5 years old, he was able to pick up the finger foods and eat it. And so that was tremendous. So at 5, though, that's when we did have surgery to remove his soft palate, his adenoids, and his tonsils. And so it was probably the worst experience of my life, because honestly, that is literally, it bleeds a lot, and your organs are like, it, the soft palate literally had to harden. So think about a scab inside your mouth. It was like the worst experience trying to feed him. But once that cleared and he was able to tolerate small bites, and once we had done that surgery, it kind of everything worked for him. He no longer had the ear infections. He was able to like not snore through the night so loudly, because he had sleep apnea as well, or he does still. He was able to swallow a better, just because he does have a tendency, just not because of oral motor, but also because he doesn't have good lip closure. We always worked on that. I don't know if anybody's a speech therapist and knows about that, but that was one of the things that we were always working on. Okay, he is 27 now, so, and he's able to eat like a hamburger or any type of food, really. I kid you not. Like, his dad is from, his dad has, grandpa is from that side, is from Peru. He's eaten like ceviche. We've given him sushi. I give him any type of burger. He loves meat, chicken. He'll eat anything. But like I said, it took some time for me to get to that level, because it just doesn't happen overnight. Um, and so when it comes to behavior and food, so gradually when you're transitioning from like those chicken nuggets, try to, like, I always did like shish kebabs, because if it was hot, they would love it, because to them it was like cute. Um, I would actually go above and beyond for my youngest and do like those Japanese little designs on her little lunchbox, those bento boxes. That's what I would do, because then at least I was giving like small little bites of different textures, like, you know, grape. or like having an apple versus something like that was like nuts or something. Obviously, you can't bring nuts to school, but things that have texture, period. So I don't know what you guys eat. Because some pastas actually have those kind of textures like that. Anyway, so hold on a second. I am annoyed because let's see. Sorry, somebody's harassing me on my live. Imagine that. What the hell? Uh, I'm seriously going live, and someone has to actually post something super disgusting on here. Okay, let me see. I'm actually just going through. I see a lot of you guys just sign on, but let's see. I don't know if you have any questions. Is anybody even caring to understand what the hell I'm talking about? Anyone? I'm not going to co-host when I'm going live unless you are a parent and you have questions. And not that I'm going to put you on the spot, but that's the only reason why I'll ever go live. Okay. And I really don't care about these things over here. Hold on. I'm checking out my messages as I go through. Oh, so wait, hold on. See, um, okay. Does anybody have any questions in reality? No? Okay. I information about ARFID, and they are little bit tips that I actually was able to find. And there is, of course, resources and websites out there that assist to give you more detailed information than I possibly could. But why I'm even mentioning the fact about behavior and how a family actually deals with food is not just because it's used as reinforcement, but it can be used as a weapon. So I have heard like parents like, oh, if you do your homework, we're gonna go out to McDonald's. And it's like the worst. Um, because you're literally reinforcing something that is basic that they have to do on a constant basis. So you're going to reinforce it with a sugar, like, no. It's like the worst thing you can do. Again, how can we weaponize food? Another way is I love it when parents in back in the day would be like, hey, I made this meal. You're going to sit here until you're finished and you can't get up. Um, you have an ADHD kid or an autistic kid who's actually like needs to stim or get up because that's the way they are, and you're going to force them to sit in a chair until they finish your meal. Not that you have to like bend over backwards and make a meal every time for that child, but you have to be patient and understanding that maybe they don't like the food. Maybe like they have to build up that palate to actually get there. And like I said, I have a little bit of tidbits that I'm going to post on my fan club if you're interested. But anybody doesn't have any more questions, I'm going to head out.